Welcome to the Fun Astrology Podcast. New week, Thomas Miller, June 27th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, do we have to put our roller skates on because we have a Neptune stationing to go retrograde tomorrow. So we'll talk about that in a minute. First, I wanted to just mention, wow, Jamie, you really lit it up with that question on Friday about the cars and the tires and I'm telling you, people from all over everywhere were responding to that with all kinds of issues and saying, yes, we're seeing it everywhere. That is amazing how that one little issue coming up out of that third house of transportation in the United States chart is so prolific right now. And I was also seeing that some vehicles are now being delivered with like half of the functionality, half of the electronic functionality is just not there. So it really is incredible what's going on in that whole scenario in the United States. And of course, it's around the world, but I'm just using that base to focus from here of what's going on with vehicles and transportation. Quick look at the sky up over our heads today, 7:45 this morning, Mercury in Gemini, sextiles, the wounded healer, Chiron in Aries. I'd love to elaborate on that, but we have so much else to do. Pay extra close attention to self-talk these days and make sure that it is serving you and moving you toward resolving those wounded areas of your psyche. No stinking thinking, like Zig would have said. This evening at 6:30, Mars sextiles Saturn. Now, this is a big one because we also have Neptune right in the middle of that, and that's where I'd like to spend the rest of our time is talking about Neptune going retrograde, but it's happening right in between at the midpoint of Mars-Saturn. So Mars in Aries, Saturn in Aquarius. We're already seeing so many of these things unfolding. I mean, it's like things are happening quickly in the news cycle right now. They're happening quickly in the chart, too. So with that, we need to peek ahead to tomorrow. And as mentioned, 3:55 tomorrow morning, Neptune stations to go retrograde. It will be at 25 degrees, 27 minutes. Of course, if you've been following, it's in its own home sign, ruled sign of Pisces. This retrograde will be 160 days, goes until December 3rd, where it will retrace to 22 degrees Pisces. So a full, almost half of the time, 40% of the time, Neptune is in retrograde. So many of you have natal signatures of Neptune in retrograde. Now I'm going to pop back over for a second here to the United States chart because this happens in the USA's fourth house, which rules what? The homeland. Exactly. And United States Neptune is within 3 degrees of an opposition to its natal position. So natally, in the United States chart, Neptune is in Virgo at 22 degrees in the 10th house. This Neptune transiting at 25 degrees starts its retrograde, and between now and December will hit 22 degrees. Exactly opposite it will be when it stations in December to go back direct. The other significant thing is that this Neptune is in a sextile to Pluto's return. Now, it will be pulling away from that, not moving toward it, so we will have at least that to observe. But these are very significant aspects in the United States chart. So with that, I thought maybe we could take a look at some Neptunian characteristics, and I pulled so much stuff here that we probably will have to do this in 2 parts. But I thought it would be fun to go back to some of the roots. This is what we've been talking about over on Old Soul, New Soul with Robert. And one of the books that encompasses this so well is Safarial's Astrology Manual. It is available on Amazon, but it's hard to you have to get the one that has all 4 books. It's 4 books comprised into one. But these are some things that I pulled from Neptune, from Safarial, who was brilliant at characterizing some of these things. So as we think about this retrograde, think about this in your own life and think about this for the collective. Neptune is a huge part of my life, and I will say discard any arguments that people say, oh, Neptune is just an outer planet, it's just about the generations. come talk to me. Let's sit down for a couple of hours over some chai tea and have a little conversation about Neptune and our natal chart. I see that we are going to run out of time. I'm going to have to make a decision whether to do an extra expanded episode, which I might do, or we'll address this tomorrow. But let's do the cookbook stuff right now, okay? So in this time period, these 160 days, we might be more susceptible to illusions, delusions, fraud, just lies, deceptions, right? So that's the shadow side. The positive side is, because it's coming internal, you might just be far more inspired over the next 160 days. I think which side of that you end up on is how you're living your life and what are you choosing and what are you creating, right? We focus around here on creating the positive and being aware of the shadow. If the shadow shows up, just acknowledge it and pass it on. We did a big part of our Healing Convergence last night was on that. So if you didn't see it, you'd like to see a replay, it's in the Facebook group and the Fun Astrology Podcast YouTube channel. And the other area that is very Neptunian is confusion. So you might be floating around without direction or indirection. Things can seem confusing. That, of course, is the shadow. The more positive side is you listen to that still small voice and you get inspirations, revelations, aha moments that come from above. I don't remember exactly the date that I got that inspiration to email Fred Dodson about narrating his audiobooks, but I think in looking back at 2013 that it may have come under a Neptune retrograde. Not for sure, but it's very likely. It was right there at about that time. So if you remember that story, if you've heard that story, if not, it's in the new book. It'll be out soon, so you'll get to hear it again fresh. But the thing about that story was I took immediate action on a definite inspiration. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. I'm looking ahead. We have time tomorrow and Wednesday, so we can expand this over the next 2 episodes. But I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the caution, because Neptune also rules everything addictive. So if there's anything that you are addicted to for any other area of your life, whatever it is that you can't do life without, that you put into your body, or a physical action that you do, or an addiction to whatever, fill in your own blank. This is a time that you should really think about a reset. Retrogrades are made for resets, so we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But this is another really big aspect that sets us up for a highly active fall this fall. So we are going to spend some proper time on this over the next 2 days. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful one. See you tomorrow.